Should we start recording?
I am recording.
Are you? But for me, I find I'm little, so I spend my life with my boobies out, my shoulders back, and trying to keep my head up.
Right.
But I also don't think telephones do them any favours, because you all like that.
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, that's if you're reading. If you're talking. So I'm a walker. I'm a pacer. And so are my girls. They've caught it from me. So if they're on the phone, they're not static. I can't sit and make a telephone call.
No, I can't.
But the hunch will come from me doing the computer work.
Yeah, right, okay.
But my mum used to say to me, I'm going to put a plank down your back, because she wanted me to be ramrod straight back so I could be a brigadier in the army. But it just failed, because I just wanted to fit in with guys at school. So I wanted to be shorter.
How tall are you?
5'11".
How tall are you?
6'2", something like that, 6'1".
Yeah.
But I've been this height for a very long time.
How old were you when you got tall?
I was always the tallest kid in the
Really?
class, yeah, always. So, I should have been a year up or something. So I was the tallest kid, which makes you a target if you're a child in the farmers' villages, schools there.
Well, it's like me being just the smallest. I was always the smallest.
Right.
And it's the same. And I was a ginger head. Small.
Well, I found the cure for that, but I used to be a ginger.
What, you've gone bald?
I've got a spare backup cure now, which is to start going grey. But so I was ginger and I was tall. Plus, we moved from Sussex, where everybody speaks with a plum in their mouth, and we moved to Dorset, where it's full of farmers' lads and fishermen's sons. So I moved from morning chaps, how we all doing, and took that with me to Dorset, where it's right, but what's going on? You make yourself a target again. So,
is it you make yourself a target, or people just want to target you?
I have a face that people just want to punch. I realise that, but I think it's not that you make yourself a target. You believe you are a target.
Yeah.
And that can take a very, very long time to you move into avoidance techniques, don't you? And it takes a very long time to sort of cure that and think, I don't care. I just don't care. But you grow out of it. I'm looking forward to that part.
There's no point to. So just introduce yourself very briefly, who you are.
I'm Tim Doyle.
What do you do for a living?
I work in motorcycles. I work for BMW, make cars and motorcycles, and I look after some dealers in the UK. Bikes.
Right, and now I'm going to go back to the subject that we started talking about, because I want to know, were you bullied at school at all?
A little bit, yeah.
Because?
All kinds of reasons.
I didn't wear glasses at the time. That was my saving grace. Then it just got broken. But everything else I did, everything made me a target in my brain.
Yeah.
From the bicycle that my parents bought me, just everything. It's gone quiet now.
Because I'm thinking about my own experience, and I was also, I watched a program about bullying the other day, and it kind of brought it all back, that actually how awful it was for me as a kid, and how we can talk about it as adults in an almost kind of normal conversation. But I remember I went to a local shop, and it was a local lady shop, and I was looking at clothes, and I walked in and was faced with the girl who bullied me when I was at the local school in Cheddar, and I walked straight back out, because even today
you had a reaction to
absolutely. And that part of my reaction is I want to go up and say, you made my life hell.
Do you think that she would have realised at the time she was a bully?
Well, that's the thing. Well, it's that normal behaviour, isn't it? I mean, and we were talking previously to somebody about that bit about on social media. It's almost like the bullies out on social media don't have a face, but the bullies that I experienced had a face.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't know. How can you be unkind to another person and not know that you're being?
So maybe we could circle back to the kind conversation later. That could be a completely separate one. But I have a view that now, many decades later, but it took me a very long time to get past some of the things that I went through. And actually, I've spoken to other people that were bullied, and they were bullied.
Yeah.
A lot of what happens when you're bullied is in your mind. You fear that you're going to be, and that kind of speak it into existence. But one of my fears, as I look back many years later, is, did I bully someone? Not physically. I'm not a fighter, but did I bully anybody emotionally? Because kids can be cruel, can't they?
Yeah.
And I was away recently on a weekend with a good friend of mine that we were at school together. So we were talking school stuff. We remembered this game that we played with one of the guys that was there, and we sort of think, do you think we could be sued for that?
Yeah,
all these years later? There was no malice in it, but you don't know how he would have taken it. So the people that bullied me, potentially, they wouldn't have looked up at themselves in the mirror and said, who am I going to bully today? They might have just thought, how do I get through the day? For them, it might have been fun. But for someone else, it has an impact.
Okay, so how do you define a bully, or how do you define not being a bully? And I had a recent experience where I went to somebody's house, one of our trustees' house, actually. I went to Annie's house, and she was having a lunch, and there was lots of people. It was a fundraising event. And I recognised this lady, but I didn't know who she was. I recognised her face. Oh, she knew who I was. And she knew who I was because I just joined the school, a local school. And she said, I really would just like to say thank you. And I said, well, she said, you were so kind to me. And she had a broken leg.
Right.
And basically she couldn't go out because she had a broken leg, but was sat in the playground, in the classroom, and said, and I apparently went up to her and said, do you want somebody to sit with you? Can I help you in any way? Do you need any help? And she said, nobody really did that. But that's my natural position. I naturally come from that position. I don't come from a bullying position.
Yeah.
So I know I'm not a bully, but some people could see some of if I challenge you or if I say something, might come over to somebody that I am.
So there's different levels of bullying. And from my own experience, so 5 lads decide that for fun, they're going to shave you with their penknife. That's bullying. For them, it's fun. Sometimes a full-on punch in the face, that's bullying. Sometimes it's humour. Sometimes it's just someone using humour and drawing attention to something that you're uncomfortable, whether it's that you're tall, or what's the weather like up there, or something like that. And you learn to laugh it off, but it can still hurt. And even in later life, because I was adopted the low maintenance hairstyle quite early in life. So I was 21 when I thought, hang on, what's going on here? So it all went quite early. And then you move into a different stage of bullying where your friends will notice it. Because I'm tall, I can conceal it to a degree. Because I had a comb over. So I just comb it over. It's only when you're sat down and people walk behind you that they suddenly go, ooh, because they see you've got a little bit showing through. And in a high wind, it would stand up like a really big lid, which was tricky. So sometimes people would draw attention and make a joke at your expense. And some people can laugh it off and some people can pretend to laugh it off, but actually it has an impact. So you suffer that for a period of time. And I suppose what it made me think is I'd rather be kind to people than point out that they're short, tall, fat, whatever. Unless they're very good friends, and then it's fair game. It's sport then.
Yeah. We have it at our dinner table, don't we, Mike?
Yeah. Our trustees meetings, we do, yeah.
So it's banter then.
Yeah.
Very different, very different.
But it's only banter if everybody's on the same level.
On the same level, yeah.
Otherwise banter, because that's another thing that people could say, it's only banter. But
it's got to be banter on both sides, though, hasn't it? It can't be. You're saying it's banter and I'm saying it's not.
Yeah,
it's got to be both ways.
That's when it gets awkward. I think.
I agree.
It's when it gets tricky. How did we get on to bullying?
I don't know, actually.
I think I introduced it, didn't I?
I think you did.
Wow.
Well, I'm curious to learn more about what you do for work.
Okay. What would you like to know?
I don't know.
So, we import or manufacture motorcycles, BMW cars and bikes. I work just in the motorcycle division. They come over here on a boat
Hold on, stop. Did you come on a bike or did you come in a car?
Definitely. I came in a car. I would have come on the bike.
Was
today.
it a BMW car?
It is a BMW car, yes. And
Just checking.
I spotted the keys.
You know, I've got to work the advert in some, but genuinely the cars are, they're just fantastic. And I've been very, very lucky. So what I do at the moment is I look after all of our dealers in the UK. I have to find dealers if we have an area where we don't think the representation's good enough. We want another dealer. That's down to me. And I consult with the dealers that we've got now on profitability measures, standards to maintain. BMW, as you would imagine, have very high standards. And it's my job to help the retailers maintain those standards. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Okay.
Funnily enough, though, I've just got to say this to you, and
What, you're grinning? I'm nervous.
because you know something's coming.
I
At that
do.
point.
Yeah.
Because you undermined your position when you first introduced yourself, and I don't think. And now you've explained what you do. Mike wouldn't have had a clue unless he'd asked you that question. I knew what you did because we know each other quite well, but it was like, why has he just said, "Oh, I help a couple of dealers" or something? I think was what he said.
Dealers will do about £1/3 of £1 billion of turnover or something like that in the UK. We're a very big brand in the UK. The bikes are premium brand and very big bikes. And we are, us and Triumph, who are manufactured or represented here in the UK, we're the two sort of biggest brands. And we're very keen to make sure that we give the right customer experience and all of those things. And myself and a colleague, we look after that. That's sort of what I tell people when they ask. But for me, it's been a joy because from a very, very early age, I discovered transport, and I just loved everything that moves. So I get, turn it off, and I'd say what I get to do is swan around the country in a car or a motorcycle, pretty much of my choice, helping people at the company's expense, and they pay me for it.
Amazing.
It's fantastic. One day they will work out I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. But I've managed to hide that for 20 years so far. So we're getting through it. So it's been the most fantastic journey. If you like cars, and I do, and you like motorbikes, and I do, they give me a new one every few weeks. It's just fab. And if something goes wrong, I dial 7 numbers and say the big lumpy metal thing in the front has stopped making a noise and someone will sort it out. It's been great, and the people I work with are fantastic. So it's been a great journey.
Sounds really good. So tell us then, what's your favourite bike and your favourite car?
So I don't have one.
Oh, you can't say that.
We could be here forever. So if it was a car,
yep,
and I took one from our current stable, the things that I drive, I like the BMW X series, so the 4-wheel drive ones. I like being sat up a little bit. I like seeing over the hedgerows. And I'm a big chap, and I like the big cars. That said, the other side of the coin, I also very much like the 2-seater open top cars. So my heart is always 2-seater open top.
Okay.
And I've had many. And it's not about how it makes me look. I look fantastic anyway, the car. But what I found, it's about how it makes me feel. So I would drive my open top cars, as long as it's not absolutely chucking down with rain, the hood would be down, because I really like the fresh air. I like hearing what's going. I have to go very, very fast to get that feeling now, where legal. But I've driven from here to Yorkshire in the snow before and had the hood down all the way.
Wow.
Because I want to. I don't care what I look like. I've got a favourite hat that I wear with a peak on it, and it's like a woolly hat. I can dress up and be all warm. I've got heated seats, so the hood goes down, and I just turn all the heaters up full and love it. So my heart says 2-seater sports cars, and my head says 4x4 size. That's kind of it. But if you wanted a list of cars that I really want, my garage wouldn't hold. I could keep going. Yeah. When I retire, maybe a 40-year-old Mercedes.
Oh, really?
40-year-old Volvo or something like that. The cars are fantastic, but they're resolving problems that I don't understand the problem anyway. So we have so many features in the car, and I haven't read a book for ages. So on my current car, I can turn the radio up by waving my hand in the air.
It's called gesture control.
Gesture control. He knows what he's talking
With a
about.
teenager, all right? He's not in our frame of reference.
But
Also a very big BMW fan. So
I'm thinking to myself, what problem are we resolving here?
Mhm.
Because I'm okay with the old-fashioned turn the knob up.
Yeah.
And I've also got a button on the steering wheel that I can turn it up. And if I really wanted to, I could say, please turn the radio up and the car will hear me and just turn it up. So now I've got gesture control. My children thought that was fantastic. When I first had it, absolutely brilliant. But it gets frustrating if you're having a conversation in a car, because I'm a gesticulator.
yeah,
I
me
have to
too.
move things around. So I'm talking and I'll make a point and like to emphasize the point, suddenly Radio 2 comes in. I'll wave and it will do something. So the car's very clever. I haven't got a clue how it works.
Well, Dave's just got what's he got? What's it? What make is it?
Can't remember now.
He had a pickup, didn't he?
Yeah, he's got a Mitsubishi. He hasn't got a Mitsubishi anymore.
Okay. Isuzu?
Toyota?
Toyota Hilux?
Toyota Hilux. He's got one, and neither of us have a clue. Absolutely don't. I mean, I can put the phone on, I can do all of that and stuff like that, and I can fiddle about with it. But he's got stuff there that I just don't even know. He's got headlights that set themselves, and they'll do them automatically and stuff.
That's standard stuff on a car.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, but
That's like saying, I've got electric windows.
It is, yeah.
I've got an 07 plate car.
Well, yours is a classic.
Yes,
Not quite.
It's going to be.
It will be,
I've
agree.
always admired that car, and there's an
It's
open
clean,
offer.
actually.
I'll give you £1,000 for it anytime you
Fucker
want.
off.
So, bikes. Favorite bike?
So
I know
right
nothing
now-
about bikes.
So
I-
right now, I'm riding a BMW. It's a K1600, so it's a big engine, 1.6 litre. My first bike was a 50cc. This thing is, I can't even work it out. 1600, what's that, 32 times bigger? It's enormous. But the thing I like about it, apart from everything, is that it has a big top box on the back.
Okay.
So if I'm taking Jeanette, my partner, out for a ride on the bike, she can sit and be comfortable. It's got big arm rests and things. And the bike is phenomenal, and it's another thing, I don't know how it works. I just get on it and ride it. And that I've ridden all over Europe.
Wow.
And it's supremely comfortable. And so that I like. But if I had to choose one bike, it would be the BMW GS, which is a sort of on-road, off-road bike. It's capable of touring around Europe. I've ridden all over Europe, North Africa. So if I had one bike, it would be that.
Okay.
But I'm also drawn to 40-year-old motorcycles with less technology. And the thing that got me into biking, which wasn't riding the bike, it was getting from A to B. It was transport. And the first foreign holiday that myself and a couple of friends took was when we got our first big bikes. Back then they were 500cc, which nowadays is that's nothing.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, wow, we got 500cc bikes. And we went abroad. It's just me and Graham to start with. We went to the Isle of Wight just to check that we were okay with abroad. And then we went to Belgium after that. And it was the freedom that was fantastic. And there were no sat-navs on the bikes. They've all got them now. My bike talks to my phone. It plays music through my helmet. Back then, nothing. And it was that sense of freedom that was just fantastic. Maybe you feel the same getting on a horse or something first thing in the morning. You think, you might feel free.
I feel like that in my car because I don't know how to work my sat-nav on my car. And
I wouldn't bother now. It's 2007.
I was going to say, it's so out of date.
Still think we're part of Europe.
Probably.
Half the roads won't be there.
And I don't have, and I'm not really bothered. If I get in my car, I'll call Mike, or I'll call Dave, or I'll call one of the kids. But very rarely do I talk to anybody else. So I have the freedom of peace and quiet and stuff like that. Like you, I like the top down. And I will have the top down whatever the weather is, providing I can keep myself warm enough.
But getting in the car is one thing. Can you get out of your car?
Absolutely.
Because I still want a two-seat sports car, but it's just I'm not delicate getting out.
And I think the Porsche is really deep.
What kind of deep?
No, you get in, and it is quite difficult for some people to get.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm short, so it's actually the best car. I don't have
They're
to
all deep. That's part of the experience. You're so close to the road,
Yeah.
it feels like you're connected.
Yeah.
You're part of it,
Absolutely.
which I really like. But getting out of it, I have to bail out. It's like two hands on the floor.
You're a big guy, which must be like. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
That.
But apart from that, it's fine. It's just when you get to head office, you have to park on the top floor out of sight of everybody before you get out of it. I think,
and then crawl out.
If they saw me, they'd say, "Our cars are fantastic. Can you not drive that one, Tim? Does it make?"
It's not a great advert.
It's not a great advert.
So I know that you're a BMW freak, which is one of the reasons why I.
Yeah.
Well,
I do like BMWs.
which is why I thought about.
Well, I've had quite a few.
BMW 3-litre CSI. That would be what I want.
Okay. So I have had 3-litre. I've had a 320D. I've had an M4 in mint green, an M4 in orange.
Wow.
I had an X4M because I went for a bit of a midlife crisis and thought that I needed an old man car. I now have the Land Rover Defender you saw on the drive.
Right. Yeah.
But I tell you what, I do miss that being low to the ground. You go around a roundabout and feel the road.
Yeah.
I do miss that a little bit.
Yeah. You don't get that with the big 4x4s.
No.
But as a driver's car, the BMW is very definitely a driver's car, and I've really enjoyed that all my working life. It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
But when you're low, you feel much more connected. Everything goes by in a blur. It's the closest thing to riding a motorbike, but without getting wet.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit like you were saying to me about being on a horse, because when you're on a horse, you concentrate on being on a horse. You've got to concentrate on what's around you. You concentrate on, what's ahead of you, what's behind you, what's either side of you, and you can see. And I don't have anything. I don't really think about anything else. I'm concentrating on that job, and I do feel like that a lot when I drive. I don't like any distractions because I quite like the feeling of being right on the ground. And in my car, you can feel absolutely everything.
Mm.
You go over a matchstick and you'd feel it.
Yeah.
Which sometimes can be a little bit annoying.
Yeah, and it can bump, can't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It proper bumps.
Yeah. I've got a convertible as well. I say I've got a convertible. That's not true. Jeanette has a convertible which she lets me use now and again. So
what is it?
320 BMW 320 convertible. And again, I will drive that with the hood down as much as I can. She doesn't, because she's got hair. So for her, it's she's always going somewhere and she doesn't want the windswept look.
Yeah.
But for me, I like the hood down.
I've got a hairbrush in the car, a little purple hairbrush. I have a headscarf, and I have a straw hat. It's because this obviously I'm similar colour to you, and I burn. So if it's really hot, I have a straw hat that I put on my head, and it's crunched underneath the passenger side, so it's always there. And I have a scarf that actually many, many, many years ago, and sadly this guy's died now, but it's a really label, a really posh label, I can't remember it, and he gave it to me and he said, "I'd like you to have this for your car." And
really?
He got it second hand,
right?
Because it's a vintage scarf, and it sits there. And I always think about him when I.
Oh, that's nice.
But yeah, I understand where Jeanette's coming from. But I have.
I said to her, just put a hat on.
Yeah.
I have a favourite hat for my sports car. I lost it last year. Funny story. Might tell it if there's time. But my favourite hat, I'll take it off and I'll scrunch it up. It'll go in a pocket. It'll go in anywhere. But so it has a peak. But over the years, it's sort of turned. It's more like a duckbill platypus look.
Yeah.
And nobody likes it apart from me.
I'm sorry about the phone, by the way.
That's all right. That's no problem.
It's home.
So yeah, we all have a favourite hat. If you have a 2-seater open top, got a favourite hat, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I was thinking about this. So the 320D that I had was a convertible, and I didn't really enjoy it that much. I think it was because I could never get it right. I was either too hot because the top was off and the sun was out, or I was too cold because the sun wasn't out and I had the top off and didn't put heating on in the right places. I didn't keep that car very long.
You couldn't get it right.
No, couldn't get it right.
Extra jumper, tape jumper off.
Or hat, like you said. I never thought about the hat
So
thing.
the reason I learned how to sit in a convertible car was because when Dave and I were just friends before we got married, years and years and years ago, he had an MG of some kind. I don't know what it was. And the top came down, and I remember him whacking the heating up in it. And it was like, because I was a bit nervous about getting cold, as you know, I always get cold. And it was brilliant. And that was how I learned. So I actually drive, because I don't have heated seats. I wish I did. I drive and I have the heater here by my hands.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I very rarely do I get cold in my car because it keeps my hands lovely and warm. And then it gets the upper body. Just kind of seems to travel down.
Horses for courses, they say, don't they? I'd miss heated seats. If I bought a classic car, which I thought I wanted to do, I thought I wanted an MG Roadster or an MG BGT or a Triumph Spitfire like my dad had. I'd have loved one of those. But there are no frills for that. So then you have to think about, how you're going to be and are you going to be warm. So I think I want to get back to basics, but only so far, not all the way. I like electric windows and power steering.
Do you ever watch that program on yesterday? I think the channel is about the auction of classic cars. I can't remember.
Bangers of Cash. You were talking about that on the podcasts. I remember. Yeah, I do. I watch that. Yeah, and I play a little game with myself because I know nothing, but I just know what I like the look of.
Yeah.
So I'll sort of have a guess at what I think it's worth. And I'm not too far off.
That's good.
I'm generally not too far. It almost looks like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. It's just a wild guess. Sometimes you deliver a wild guess with enough confidence.
Yeah, that it works.
Yeah, because you've got a ring of confidence.
People believe you.
Well, Jeanette does. Which is fun because I can have a lot of sport with Jeanette.
Yeah,
and I will sometimes introduce a subject that is just purely made up. And I'll realise I've got her. She's on the hook and I'll just keep reeling her in until she goes, you winding me up?
Is this called bullying? Banter?
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask her.
She will probably call it bullying. I'll ask her.
Yeah.
So are you mechanically minded as well?
What's that?
That's a no then.
That's a no. So no, you're not.
I have friends that are mechanically minded.
Yeah.
But they lose me in any conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So not a clue.
No?
I could tell you the horsepower of my bike.
Yeah.
But only because I've read it. But I've no idea. And
you wouldn't do an oil change or anything like that?
Perhaps I've got this long list of things when I retire that I'd like to do. And one of those includes actually doing an oil change.
Okay.
And changing brake pads and discs.
Yeah.
But what happens is I end up with a pile of parts, and when it's all back together, I've still got 3 parts left. And so I think that my family would prefer to say, look, you've got lots of friends that can do it, so get one of them to do it. People that you trust.
It's funny, I think you're probably one of the first people I ever met who's really into cars and bikes, but isn't mechanically minded. And I've always felt that I was the odd one out because I'm not massively mechanically minded, but really enjoy cars. And bizarrely, over the last probably 18 months, I've become more mechanically minded.
Really?
So much so that at the weekend, I changed the bumpers on my brand new Land Rover Defender.
What, on purpose?
On purpose,
Why?
yes. Yeah, because they were grey and they looked really ugly. And now they're nice black.
And you did it yourself?
I did it all myself, yeah.
See, I'd love to do something like that.
Yeah, it's very brave.
Yeah, but you bought the
Mustang?
The Mustang. And in a sense that's kind of moved you into that world.
It has. But I think it's quite scary to buy a brand new car, a very expensive car, and then go, let's pull the bumpers off this car and put new ones on.
That's just bonkers. Yeah. I think that would just worry me. Any faint customizing. I cut the hair on the dashboard of my first Mini.
Okay.
Because it was a very long time ago and that was an in thing. So when I bought my Mini, people used to customize cars depending on their budget. So mine, someone had just glued a load of carpet, long-haired Afghani carpet. And they were a heavy smoker. So all of the tendrils, the fronds, whatever you call them, they're all matted together. And I wasn't brave enough to take the whole cardboard thing out, so I just gave it a haircut. That was probably the first bit of customizing I did.
Nice, okay.
But over the years, I've done bits and pieces, but my daughters, who are now all grown up and very sensible, they're no longer impressed. So they just don't do it, Dad, because they've seen the amount of times that I've fixed my electric bike and then had to take it back to the manufacturers for them to have a laugh at. You know, what did you do? I'll explain what I did, and I've set fire to a motorbike trying to.
Did you?
In the garage. That was my midlife crisis motorbike.
What did you do to it that made you set it on fire? I'm a bit intrigued.
I bought this sporty off-road bike, and it was a source of much amusement to my friends. I had no idea it was a sort of thoroughbred racing thing. I just thought, if I get this off-road bike, I can poodle around like I used to as a kid, plus the vibration will lose weight for me. These things. That. So it just it happens, all right, in your head. So I bought the bike as my midlife crisis. I couldn't even start it. It had a Kickstarter. It did have an electric one as well, but only with a tiny battery, so it would go flat while I was trying to start it. There's a knack to it. And in the end, I bought a tin of Start Your Bugger, or it's called, you know, and I took the seat off, read the instructions, it said spray it down the hole. So I sprayed it down the hole. The bike started, and I thought, this is magic. It's like WD-40. That's all I need, just that. And a hammer, and I'm a mechanic. Then the bike stopped. So I thought, what it needs is a bigger squirt. So I gave it like a real grown-up. Anyway, it started. This massive flame shot out, singed my eyebrows. And I thought, I've set the bike on fire. And the garage is on fire. People are going to be really cross with me. So I blew the fire out, and in doing so, spat my chewing gum down the hole.
Oh, no.
Hoik it out with a skewer. So I thought, I better sell this bike. So I sold it. And my daughters realise if they see Dad going anywhere with a drill or a toolbox, they're thinking, oh, God, what's going to happen?
Run in the opposite direction.
Your kids move into their houses, and did you do any DIY for them? I
did quite a lot of DIY for them, and I still will now. And luckily,
so you're like doing DIY?
No, I'm okay turning up with tools, but I have friends that are prepared to come around afterwards. So if I could put a shelf up, if you need a shelf up, you can't put anything on it, but the shelf will be there. But if you want to put stuff on it, then my father-in-law used to come around and he'd say, what have you done since I was last here? And I'd give him a list of things I'd done, and he'd just go around and sort them out again. So yeah, I will go to my daughters and I will help. And if it's beyond me, I'll pretend I'm too busy to do it because I'm too important, but I'll have a friend come around and do it for them.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's fair enough.
I suppose it's knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. So what are you good at? Nothing.
I'm good for nothing. I can hold a conversation.
Yeah.
What else can I know my right from my left. I can tell when it's dark. Are these important things to have? I'm good at talking to people. I'm good at understanding their issues. So I suppose those are things I'm good at. I'm good at helping or fixing things. Not myself. I get someone else to do it.
No. You can delegate.
Start to feel a little bit
generally.
Starting to feel a bit like a job interview.
Yeah.
How much holiday do I get?
Yeah, that's it. What car do you get?
It's easy though, isn't it, to kind of focus on what you're not so good at and think about the things that you can't do, or rather than actually, I mean, to have been in a job for 20 years, you've got to have been getting something right.
Oh, that reminds me, I'm good at BS as well. Yeah, I'm good at concealing things.
I disagree with you because I've known you a little while, and I disagree with all of that. And I suppose if your kids were sat here, they'd probably disagree with all of that.
They've been well trained. But professionally, I'm a goal hanger. So what I do is I realise that I've been around long enough that if things are going wrong, generally, 85% of them will sort themselves out. So what you do is you just got to get your timing right and hang around when it gets sorted out. Pretend you had something to do with it. It's called goal hanging. I'm really good at that.
And what about being a dad?
Yeah, do you know what? I'll say yes. There was a time when I wasn't sure, which you will call. But I reckon I'm a good dad. And do you know why? Because I don't get paid for it or anything. Not yet, anyway. I reckon it's because I enjoy it. I'm really lucky with all my children, and I know some of them.
You're also quite good with humour. I think you need to add. You need to add that one in.
That's my hiding place. That stopped me getting bullied when I was a kid. you learn. So my girls have all got a similar sense of humour, so we can have a great time, and we do. And I know that I'm their dad, and they know that I'm their dad, but I can no longer tell them jolly well what to do because they won't take it anymore. But we have a great time, so we can go on holiday together. Or I could take one of them for a daddy-daughter weekend. I owe Jessica a daddy-daughter weekend, but the others have had it. And I've really enjoyed it. And also take the responsibility seriously, but it doesn't feel like a responsibility. It just feels like a normal thing. We had some challenges. We got together as a family, and we made it work. So yeah, I'm a good dad. I'll take that. I'm a good dad. No, do you know what? I'm a bloody brilliant dad, I reckon, for my girls anyway.
Yeah, but that's all you have to be, isn't it? And I think parenting is something that we very much underestimate what we do as parents, how much we do give to our kids and how good we are, because how did they survive? And okay, some kids are very resilient and have had to survive on their own, but if you sat here, would you say that your parents did a good job?
Yeah, I think they have done a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good job.
It's rumbling.
I know, my tummy is wrong. I'm sorry you can hear
On a
it.
biscuit.
I'm not hungry.
He's
I think I bought some.
Yeah.
I thought Angie won't have biscuits. I better bring my own.
There's chocolate cake there if you want it.
There is,
My
yeah.
body is a temple.
Yeah, I was going to say no comment. But, it is that bit about parenting, being a parent, but also having been parented, how much you are different from your own parents because some of the things that they might have done that you don't agree with, but also that bit about how important it is to have a good, solid foundation to kind of catapult you into a normal life type thing.
Well, I've realised now I'm old. I've realised I can remember things that were negative from very early age, and they can stay with you for 40, 50 years. And I think every parent probably feels, there's a baby coming. I've created this. I'm going to do all the good things my parents did, and I'm not going to do bad things that my parents did. And that's what we aim for. So for myself, I wanted to be a hero. I wanted to be the best dad. That's what I wanted to do. And I made some mistakes along the way. And I think most of us, somewhere along the line, make a mistake or two. And sometimes some of the things that you feel, I won't do this to my children because my parents did it. Actually, your parents did it to you because you probably needed it, and sometimes you think, well, the lesson that I didn't take from my parents, I'm not going to do that for my kids, but sometimes they need it, and so you can't get it right all the time. I'm pretty close. I know.
I'm saying nothing at my end. I suppose as a parent, I think I'm a good mum. I know I am. I don't need anybody to tell me that. And I think I'm a good all-round person. And I think I parent a lot of other people as well. And I think I'm pretty good at that. I think we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And I think that's the bit that you've got to recognise is that. And also, it's not always your fault.
Mm.
You are not to blame for how your children necessarily come out. But take the credit when you can. If you see what I'm saying as a parent.
Goal hanging, you see.
Yeah, exactly.
When people say, I had your daughters around the weekend, they're fantastic. I know they are.
Yeah.
But I will have to say, chip off the old block. They take off their old man, all of those things.
Yeah.
But they are good girls. But they've found their own way. I can't say that I've particularly steered. Not now. I think they sort of find their own way. We all rub along together, and I'm very conscious of the fact that in a few years' time they're going to choose where I'm going to live. So I want to be nice to them now.
Yeah, they're going to get their own back in a few years' time.
I don't want any of them to say, "Do you remember when?" I think, "Oh, I'm in the coal shed, am I?"
When my father-in-law's mother ended up in a home.
Hang on, I'm still trying to.
Dave,
I think I've got it.
Dad's mother.
Okay.
Grandmother. Dave's grandmother.
Okay, no.
Right, it's easy that way. Dave's nan.
Someone you knew.
It's in a home just in the outskirts of Wales. I'm not going to say it because it'd be disrespectful to them if I say what we called it. We gave it a nickname. It didn't smell very nice. And so the kids, every time I do something that might be showing my age in some way, they say, "Oh, it's time to move her into smelly," whatever should they call it. And it's like, don't you dare.
They're thoughts, though, that humorous though they are, at some point they're going to become real for us.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it until you have close family that are in that position, that they're suffering with something. And that's something else that I've realized as you get older. Suddenly you're putting on the black tie for people that you know, or you're talking to someone that you know and they've known you forever, but they don't know you anymore. And those are really quite hard things to overcome, because you think, at some point in the future, that could be me.
Yeah.
And we think about our own parents and our own grandparents and what happened to them and.
And I think that's the thing about mental health. Mental health or ill health is not just about being depressed or being anxious or, dementia is part of that as well.
Yeah.
And, family members got vascular dementia, and it's very difficult to kind of manage that situation on top of managing your own life, as well as, they're not in a home, they're still in their own home, and that's the best place for them. They need to be there because actually it's familiar and it's safe and stuff like that. But we have to put things into place to make sure that it's safe and they're safe, and they don't understand that. They just think you're watching them, or you've got spies in, or you're taking their money from them or stuff like that. And yet, that you
must be impossible.
It's hard
to live with.
It's really, really hard.
And I have seen it. We lost my father-in-law last year, the children's granddad, a fantastic granddad, and Granny looked after him right up to the end. It was reasonably swift, I suppose. I say that. It was over a period of, I don't know, a year or 18 months that it was getting increasingly difficult. And hats off for caring.
Yeah.
Because I think my daughters are just waiting for me to suffer, and then they'll take me out in the woods late at night and leave me or something. And then I'm terrified because I think, well, what's your measure? If I forget to sugar the tea, am I out in the woods or something? Or does it have to be a bit more serious than that?
But is that partly because we're also aware of it? And I think that then comes back down to depression and anxiety as well. We're also aware of those things that we end up being, we're hyper alert. So we're hyper alert. If you start forgetting things like putting the tea in the sugar, or you forget to pick your kids up.
I've never forgotten to put the tea in the sugar.
No, you've
yeah.
Sugar in the tea, frequent.
But do you know what I'm saying? It's that bit. When do you does that?
How do you recognise the change point?
But we recognise so much more now because we're all so much more aware of it. Whereas 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
Yeah. Granny's lost her teeth again.
Yeah.
But maybe the internet has made that more obvious to us. I'm not a fully qualified doctor, but I have got access to Google. You can, and I have in fact diagnosed someone before now with diabetes, and I was right.
When's the certificate coming?
Never, I suspect. But we're much more aware of it because it's more visible to us, and it's in the olden days, when everything was black and white, we had a TV. And if you were posh, your parents would have a newspaper. So you'd read what happened yesterday. But it's all about news. You didn't read editorials or...
It wasn't educational, was it?
Not really,
sense?
No. And then there were 3 channels on the telly, and that was it. Whereas now, there will be a specialist channel for everything. You've got fungal foot infection, there's a channel for you. And if not, it's on YouTube. And if not, you've got Google. I don't have a fungal foot infection.
Are you sure?
I smell like this all the time.
Do you find that being a dad, being a partner to somebody, running quite a busy job, do you find that stressful, or is it something that you feel you manage on a day-to-day basis?
I have found it incredibly stressful, and you can plan for so many things, but then something comes out of left field.
Yeah,
and there is no planning for that. So it's about how you react and how you adopt your stance. And something that I've learned over the years is I'm pretty good at having stuff thrown at me. I don't enjoy it, but I'm pretty good at working out what's the priority, what's on fire, what needs to be put out. So And there was a time when my youngest daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, and I'm not alone. There are lots happens to lots and lots of people. I know lots of families that happen to, but when it happens to you, it's an absolute knock, and you still have. And my first thought, apart from the obvious, my daughter's just received a death sentence, which isn't the case. But my next thought is, how am I going to keep a job going? And then your brain takes over and catastrophizes. And, that's something else that I'm good at. I should put that down as one of my strengths, catastrophizing.
Is it a strength?
Well, I could certainly compete for England at that sort of level at it. But I now recognise, I'm better at recognising when I am catastrophizing. I'm better at pulling myself back. And I see it in other people. So for me, it was that the job's going to go. But that doesn't finish there, does it? Because then all the little
knock-on effects
come
of all
off
that.
So the job's gone. I've got one income. I've got a mortgage. So the house is gone. And suddenly, in my head, and this all happens in about 8 seconds flat, I'm going to be living in a cave. So you find a way of dealing with those things. And when there's a real emergency, I think most people are pretty good in a real emergency. People are pretty good. I think sort of natural instincts, I don't know what it is, take over. It's only the perceived emergencies that we're not good at, or I'm not good at. And then I can sit there and, as I said, I'm much better now, but I would think about how am I going to resolve all these problems. The reality is that they're not going to happen. So you're not going to have to resolve all these problems. But sometimes it's difficult when your brain is racing like a hamster on a wheel to sort of deal with it. Can't remember where I was going with that, but
we kind of touched on stress.
Stress. I've had yes. I found it very difficult, and some of that is self-inflicted stress. So you will have. I read about this the other day, and I'll see if I can remember it. But I think it was FOD, fear of disappointing others. So I know FOMO, fear of missing out. I've got 3 daughters. I saw it all through their lives, fear of missing out. Where's the ice cream? But FODO, fear of disappointing others, and I realised, that's me. I'm a people pleaser. I used to be a people pleaser. I'm not so much now. I have a much better balance on things like that. But fear of disappointing others meant that if there was a task to be done, I'd have to do it. And then an internal competitive spirit meant I have to do it, and it's got to be good enough to pass muster. And if 5 people are doing it, I've got to be 1 or number 2. So there's a self-inflicted stress. Then with the children as well, and I was married, and my wife looked after the children and would do those things. I would do all the things that brought in the money and gave us a nice car to drive. Then you have the fear of losing that and it all being taken away from you, which has happened to me. I lost my job before now. It weren't my fault, but I was made redundant. I lost my job. There's a panic that happens. Those things that are massive stressors, they can lead to incredible stresses elsewhere. So what happens is you can't verbalize it. You can't say, I'm terrified, I'm not going to be good enough, I'm going to lose my job. So what you do is you kick the neighbour's cat instead on the way home because it's crossed your path. So you have a sort of outlet in other areas. And for me, I think I could see where it would go wrong is I would spend too much time working at home. I'd have something complex in my head, lots of numbers, and then a child would come in to the office and they'd start the conversation with, I know I'm not allowed in the office, but there's a frog. So their level of importance was, this is really critical. And everything in my head would just fall over and then I would react. Get out, I told you, not allowed in, or something like that. So my stress could then be projected onto somebody else. So I'm much better at coping with stress now because most of what I worry about isn't going to happen anyway. 85% probably. The other 15% I probably can't do a lot about anyway. So I'll just deal with what's really critical and what's urgent right now this minute. So I'll still get a bit stressy, and my partner Jeanette will catch the back end of that when she comes in to bring me a cup of tea. Oh, I'm too busy for this. She'll say, will you have time to walk the dog? I'm too busy to walk the dog. Still comes out now and again. So I can catch myself better than I used to. But stress, who wants it?
But, do you find you get stressed?
Yeah, for sure. As I was listening then, I was thinking, oh, I do that. I do. Yeah. I can relate to that as well. And yeah, absolutely. And I think it depends on the situation. And I think it's very easy to push things onto other people, or you blame other people, or whatever. You stub your toe. Well,
Yeah.
it's definitely my fault, but I'm going to blame that door over there because that door wasn't open as much as it should have been. So therefore I stubbed my toe. Or it's that person over there because their shopping, their supermarket trolley was a bit too close and it was in the middle of the aisle, not on the side. And yeah, there's loads of images flashing through my head now, thinking of times I've done that where, you blamed somebody else when it wasn't really their fault. It was just
Do you think that's kind of
reaction.
an instinctive thing that we are from childhood? It wasn't my fault, when the glass gets broken or something. I don't know. Does it go back to that?
I
don't know.
You saying what you were saying and you saying what you were saying, and something I've noticed a change in myself recently is that bit about, and I try to kind of encourage Dave to think like this as well, is that you like not blaming others because you don't know what's going on for that person at that moment in time. So you need to hold back. I've always been a bit like that anyway. So just hold.
That's a really important point.
Yeah. Hold back before you start judging, shouting, screaming at the fact that they haven't given way to you.
We taught that in school.
Yeah, I
wish that we taught that in school. I'm just reading a book at the moment. There's no pictures in it.
For a man who says he doesn't read, he's reading a book.
I was going to say.
I can tell you that I've just downloaded the entire works of Dickens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was only $1.99. It was a bargain.
So, he likes a bargain.
I was going to say, did you buy it because it was a bargain, or buy it because it was a good book?
But there is a book that I'm just normally when I might have 3 or 4 books open at any one point in time. The books Angie's talking about, I was never keen on the books that Angie would give me as homework. No pictures, no cars, nothing. Yeah. That was work, and I didn't like that. But there's one I'm reading at the moment by a guy called Thor Olafsson, who I've met. I've been on one of his courses, and I've got to try and remember the name of the book now because I'm just reading it. But it's Beyond Ego, and it's about the inner compass of leadership and how things are changing in many big corporations at the moment. I've seen big corporations they grow, and they reach a critical mass where it becomes difficult to manage. But what doesn't change is the tasks that have to be done. And there's always a hierarchy of management. It's a pyramid, So there's the workers, and at the top there's the guy saying, this is what we've got to do next. And he delegates it out. And sometimes the task becomes all important. And this book is talking about there's a sea change in senior management at the moment that says, actually, we can be more productive if we can figure out how to be kind and realistic. And sometimes what we're aiming at, people have to achieve because they fear for their job, they fear for their kids. So I mentioned earlier, I look after a number of dealerships. How I see it is not as a dealership. I see that business as being run by an entrepreneur or part of a bigger business. But in motorcycles, we're much smaller than cars. There's probably 15 or 20 people working there. So I see it as 15 or 20 people. And of those, bulk of them are going to have a partner. And a number of those will have children. So I worked it out. And I thought there's probably 600 people that are relying on daddy coming home and not being so pressured that he's got to work tonight that he can spend some time and read a story. So I would like us to remove blame. We don't live in a blame culture, but we do, especially if it's in business. It's what's the word? It's a soundbite. We don't live in a blame culture. Oh yes, we bloody do, and it'll be my fault if you've got anything to do with it. So that's one thing. And being kind to try and understand that what the guy across the table might be going through, you might not know. Now I've suffered some of it myself. It's brought it into sharp focus. And I would love to see us be kinder, and I'd love to see blame as a thing in history. Forget the blame. There's a challenge. Let's overcome the challenge, and we move on. The person that was to blame knows he was to blame, and he will have learned from it.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And I'm right.
And crucially, that's
deck the bugger that says otherwise.
But crucially, that's it, isn't it? Is, if you have made a mistake, It's much easier, I think it is anyway, much easier to hold your hands up and say, oh, I made a mistake, but I've learned from it, than you don't have the time to realize you've made a mistake, and then you start getting all this blame, and you're in this position, you're in the defense position rather than a, oh shit, I'm learning from this position. And I think that's so different.
Yeah,
it changes things.
I agree with you. And I mean, it's a culture that we've tried to kind of encourage at Somewhere House with, these are our response, exactly what you were saying about, somebody comes into rehab and you're not just talking about them that you're helping change, you're changing
everyone surrounding them that is impacted.
So one person might have 5 kids, a mum, a dad, whatever, it goes on and on and on. And you see it in particular when they email you, they send you a card or whatever. And we do try and follow that same culture in the rehab with the staff, with the team. What I think is really important, though, is to be able to voice how you feel if you think, Mike, you fucked up there, made a mistake there, and could you, or me being able to say to my God, Tim's done that again. What do so that I can offload that. It doesn't mean to say I'm going to go like that.
Yeah. Sometimes you're venting.
Yeah, it's being able to say that openly with trust, so that it's not going to go into a gossip culture. And we've got Mandy's been on the podcast. She's brilliant, but she's one of those people, and I love her for it. And she goes, "My fault." She will own straight away. If she's made a mistake, she'll put her hand up and say, I've made a mistake.
It's an adult thing to do.
Absolutely.
But that also, you need to know yourself well enough to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I agree.
For sure.
But there are also some people that, that will say my fault when it isn't. And I find some people will start a conversation with the word, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, am I bothering you? Okay, I can cope with that, but then they'll build that in, and you suddenly realize something's happened to you at some point that means that you are stuck in this apologetic. And for me, I'm thinking something's gone wrong. So, it's not enough just to say, you haven't got to be sorry. You can say it once or twice, but you suddenly realize something's happened. And now something's happened to me, I realize it's much more prevalent than we think. And I think it's really important to talk about mental health, but also to internalize it and question yourself and realize, it's okay to feel anxious about something. And if I wanted to talk, there are people I can talk to now. But once upon a time, when we were nippers, anxiety didn't exist. That wasn't a thing. I couldn't even spell it. You got a grip and you pulled yourself together, and all of those things that we would just, our teeth would itch now if we said pull yourself together to someone. They need some support. People need to know it's okay. What's the saying? It's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's a cliche. I don't know, but it is okay.
Okay. That's part of acceptance. When we internally accept who we are, and then we externally accept other people, and then that you could put that into, that is kindness, not just kindness to yourself, but kindness to others as well.
You have to you have to be, because I suppose you mentioned, Mike, earlier about defence. I think that I grew up in a defensive position.
So therefore you carry that on to a certain until you're taught otherwise.
Yeah. And now if I've made a mistake, I'm happy to say I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
Generally not at the time I need to. Generally it's 2 or 3 days later. But it's work in progress. But I can say if I've dropped a ghoulie at work, which doesn't happen. Bad example because I'm perfect. If someone I know who lives in this body drops a ghoulie at work, I'm happy to say I've made a mistake, because I think it's faster to say I've made a mistake. Can I redo that?
Yeah.
Or I've put the wrong number on this report, so ignore it today. But I'm better at understanding the impact. So 20 years ago, I might have thought I've made a mistake on this report. Am I going to lose my job? Whereas 20 years later, you might say I've made a mistake on this report. I've ruined someone's 4-second, and they'll move on to something else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really not important. It's not important. There are people dying.
Yeah. There's bigger and worse things that are happening.
Yeah.
Sure.
Should we?
I was going to say, I'm conscious of the time. We've been chatting for an hour.
Crikey.
Yeah. It's been a really good conversation.
It has.
I'd love to have you back to talk more.
Okay.
We'll do a part 2.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Tim
So
part
the
2.
fee goes up on the second one.
Maybe next time you get biscuits.
Biscuits.
I think that's
definitely.
it. Yeah.
So, no, thank you, but no.
But no, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really, really good.
I look forward to coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.